myself again.
Good afternoon, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is the three Amigos, slightly early because it's Christmas party day. Yes, Christmas is upon us.
November.
Well, it's actually 2020 is upon us, not 2021. This is last year's Christmas party, but yeah, looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing Steve. Wish Mitch was with us, but Mitch has started early, as you can see already. So he'll be pulling the crackers just as we're walking through the door, I would imagine. As always, plenty to cram in. Probably going to finish around about 5:15 because I've got to get some tea before we're finished. And I might have to get up at some point and leave the lads to chat to let the cat in because it's inside its paw. Apart from that, it'll be business as usual, all the usual stuff and a lot more besides. I'm going to start with Jimmy, who posed a question on Twitter, and I always try to keep an eye out if somebody wants to pose a question if they cannot watch or whatever. And Jimmy just says, "Hi Steve, just a question for the show if you get time. There's a lot of rumours about Newcastle being linked with every player under the sun, but do you think in January window that Newcastle will just get what we need to stay in the league, or do you think we will go big, big, big?" Interesting, because obviously there's a lot of stuff flying around, Steve, at the moment. Jesse Lingard's contract talks have broken down with Man United. Of course, we had that image on his Instagram of him sitting, or somebody sitting at St James's Park, of course, not so long ago. So, are we going to go big, 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 or do you think it'll just be a case of make do and mend, get to the end of the season, spend wisely, spend sensibly? What's your gut feeling at the moment?
It's an interesting one, that Steve. It's a great question, by the way. Thanks, Jimmy. not like testing with at this early on.
Right at the start.
But this is the reason it's interesting is because I heard some stuff this morning that kind of fits in a little bit of what Jimmy's asking about, and that was like Eddie Howe is basically looking at the next 8 games. That's his priority. Where we get to in the next 8 games, and as much as fans we're looking for points, he's looking for performances from his squad. And I think that, if anything, is going to be the catalyst for any big, massive signing, number of signings, or just key signings when we get into the January transfer window, Steve. I think that's the key to it. The players are under examination as much as the manager, and obviously everybody, like we're all. I mean, I posted on Twitter the other day, I've not been this excited about a new manager coming into the club, to be perfectly honest, since the Alan Shearer in April 2009, because you felt as though you were getting some hope. And you look at our position, you're thinking, if we can get this squad to play some decent football and get a couple of results, then the momentum might be there. So I'm interested to hear what Mitch thinks, because that's the way I'm looking at it, very much in a sort of these next 8 games are the testing period for manager, but more importantly for squad, and then that's when it starts to test the board as well in terms of who they'll look and speak to, and something we'll probably cover later on if we have a director of football who he's identified to slot in terms of what he thinks the manager needs.
What do you think then, Mitch, on that? Do you think we'll go big, big, big as Jimmy's suggestion?
No, I think we've got to be mindful to keep a little something in reserve, FFP-wise. We could go and just blow the lot in January, but if that then backfires, where do we go from there? I think we'll have to be a bit more balanced and a bit more considered. There's still, however, the little bit in the back of my mind, knowing how they do love a marquee signing in this region, that somebody somewhere connected with the PIF side of things will be itching to say, look at our new shiny toy, and look what we've bought to put in our new shiny toy. So there is always the potential for that, I think. Whilst, under the new ownership, I think we've always got to be prepared for something left field and startling. I personally don't think that will happen. I think it'll be sensible. I think it'll be considered. And then I think the plan will be then to get to the end of the season unscathed, and then they can start pulling out the big guns. And I think that for me would be the sensible approach from here. Interesting to hear how basically putting some names forward that we've already had put forward in the past and saying, right, let's put you on the stage and let's see what you can do for me. Little bit of positive psychology, perhaps. I know Shelby's been getting a bit of a big up again today. I always remember, what you guys told me about the time you spent with Rafa and how rubbish he'd been all week in training, and he hadn't been bloody, done a thing, and then by the weekend he had the captain's armband on, and so there's obviously managers can see what he can do, and they're trying different ways to get the best out of him. I think he's a complex character psychologically. And I think it's working out when he needs a boot up the backside and when he needs a cuddle. And I think that's the difficulty with a player like that. I think in terms of January signings, I think they'll be sensible, considered and measured, not necessarily, going big. But however, under Saudi ownership, there's always the potential that somebody somewhere suddenly says, right, I want to dust the checkbook out. I want something nice to play with. So the potential is always there.
Yeah, okay. Keith Moore, happy birthday to Caroline. I'm sure the lads will pass on the
happy
same.
Birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Hope you have a great day, great evening, and best wishes. John says, afternoon all, I love a prediction. I wonder what year everybody thinks we'll end up in the top 4 and then the top 1. I'm going for 2025 and 2027. Any thoughts? John, I can see why you've gone for 2027 because it's a one I've heard doing the rounds. It's 100 years since we last won the league on that particular year. Wouldn't that be nice? As for top 4, I'll be optimistic, and I would say you're probably on the money with that kind of prediction. I think 2025, if we're not at least, challenging those positions, should we stay up this season, then I think there'll be a bit of disappointment circulating. But yeah, I would say 2025 for dusting the passports off would be realistic. As for 2027 for winning the league, I guess I've just been Ashley'd. I think it's probably a little bit too early, but hey, you never know. If it's done properly, things are worked out properly, you never know. So why not? 100 years since we won the league, Newcastle to win the league 2027. It's got to be worth a daft tenner of anybody's money, bet responsibly, of course. Steve, what's your thoughts on that?
I like the logic. I like the dates that he's picked. If I was going to be a little bit more sort of excited, I'd then say if you're going to get in the top 4 by 2025, then you'd be looking for the top 1 the following season. Certainly challenging. So I think let's go for 99 years. Go for the 99. Stick the flake, and you can even have the monkey's blood on the top if you want.
Classic. Mitch, what about you? I mean, is that falling with your kind of feelings? Would you be disappointed if we weren't troubling European draws in 2025?
You know what? Right now, I'll just be very happy to be regularly safe and secure in the Premier League and not battling bloody relegation, to be brutally honest. Yeah. That's where I'm still at in many respects. But equally, we're allowed to dream a little bit. We should be allowed to dream a little bit underneath new owners. If we're not allowed to dream, then what's the bloody point? Certainly by 2030, which is another date you hear bandied around with the Vision 2030 from Saudi, they'll want something wrapped up by then, I would say. So those dates would figure in with that very nicely.
Yeah, of course they would. Yeah, well, it's a case of wait and see, I guess. Afternoon, Tom. Good to see you on. Mr. Midnight says, afternoon, lads. Seen more talk of Manolo being closed to Sorton, even since Mitch's tweet the other day, mentioning personal stumbling blocks. Heard anything else or other names? I'm still hoping for Ralph Ranick, he says. Mitch, over to you on that, I guess.
Well, I haven't heard anything more other than what's done the rounds, in the last 24 hours, that there's certainly word coming out from the press that something's been sorted out. I know the information I got was from somebody who's usually quite reliable, and they didn't know what the actual final hurdle that was preventing things just going through on the nod was. Like I said in another tweet today, you don't come spend time in Riyadh, then come to the Newcastle with the chairman, then catch them in training at the ground and spend more time on Tyneside than was originally intended, and then go away again without actually being quite, serious. And if everybody wants it, there'll be a way to work it out. I'm guessing because of the weird pressures that are being put on the club now by the press. Guillaume Balaguer's weird little bit today again, where he starts saying, "Oh, well, it was only over 200,000 dirhams, and you're supposed to be the richest club in the world." Yeah, what do you mean? Richest club in the world actually, you know what, aren't taken for a ride. Isn't that a good thing? It's 1 minute we're going to be lambasted for chucking money around like it's out, and then the next we're going to be lambasted for not spending it because we want to actually get value for money and not waste money. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But I mean, I think with somebody like Manolo, if he wants it and we want it, they will find a way. And it does sound positive. I don't know if Steve, if you've heard anything else today, that we haven't really had a catch up yet today, really. So
no, I mean, all I heard was that what I heard 10, 12 days ago that he was certainly in the frame. I then heard from a reporter who said that I was wide of the mark and steer clear from it because that wasn't the information that they were getting. And then all of a sudden, my other source that I have said it was definitely going. There was definitely movement on it. So that kind of conflicted us last weekend. But I stuck to my guns, and as I said with the tweet with Mitch earlier on, just because people think that something's fizzles away, that doesn't mean that it can't be reignited, or it was never blown out in the first place. So I think this weekend is going to be key. I think we'll see who's at the game on Saturday. We'll see who turns up. Balaguer made some very, very strange remarks. This is a man who supports what was the richest football club in the world, which we find out is built on sand. And it's not been Saudi sand; it's been Spanish sand. Spanish fool's gold, I think, in some quarters, as you look at Madrid and Barcelona. He's all of a sudden taking an interest in us. I don't know why, because I don't think he's ever taken an interest in us before. I can't recall ever having conversation or listening to conversations and podcasts and such like where he's waxed lyrical about Newcastle United in the past, but all of a sudden we're on his radar. But on his radar with like little cutting remarks, little digs, little spikes that a lot of the press seem to be picking up on, and a lot of the press seem to have developed. And whether they've all been to Poundland and bought these spikes, I'm not too sure, but they all seem to be pressing them and trying to stick them in and stepping back now and again. But no, I mean, like I say, let's see what happens this weekend. I mean, our main focus shouldn't be on director of football. Our main focus is on the game. And I think, if there is a possibility of Emiliano, then perhaps it'll be next weekend. Perhaps it'll be sometime over the weekend we might hear. Although, if you look at the way that the Eddie Howe situation developed, it was very much sort of, let Jones concentrate on the game. Everybody knew that Howe was coming, but there was no announcement until late on the Monday. And I wouldn't be surprised if a similar sort of thing happened. If, as Mitch says, the problems have been ironed out. If there were any problems in the first place, it could well just be in conversations that needed to be had outside of the bubble that is the Northeast. Go back a level head. Speak to your agent, speak to whomever else you need to speak to, whether it's family or whatever, just to get in your own mind that it is what you want. Let people know what you thought of the city, what do you think that the city can bring to them if it's a family issue, for example, or just needs to be confirmed. But no, I mean, let's see where the weekend gets us. Let's see what happens. And I think what I also said in my tweet, Steve, was that if it's not Emiliano, then it's somebody better. Just like when it wasn't a certain manager, it was somebody better. It was somebody that genuinely really wanted, and they were, as we've seen with the management situation, they go through a systematic way of identifying, interviewing, discussing, and then the decision-making process. So very much a business focus that they have on decisions like that.
Yeah, and that's the bottom line. It's it'll be done when it's done, and it'll be the right person. They will come up with the right person for them. Eddie Howe mentioned in his press conference today, said he wouldn't be adverse to working with somebody in that position, but there hadn't been any talks about it as yet with him. So that tells you, I guess, where we're at with that. It's not advanced, certainly at all. Dean, get well soon, mate. Sorry that you're missing out tonight, and yes, we need a massive 3 points tomorrow. You are certainly right. And Alan McKenzie's getting his apologies in early. He says, "Evening, lads. See you all later. Hope there's no hard feelings regarding lookalike. I won't need a gum shield, will I, Mr. Hasty?"
No, you won't. No, you won't.
No, definitely not. Graham, the cat's called Nala. It's a strange story. It used to live somewhere further up the street. It fell in love with our kids. It kept coming to us. They had 5 cats, so they gave us the cat, but it's called Nala. But she is black and white. But she's got a bad foot. She's been fighting or scrapping or doing something last night. So got to keep an eye out for her.
Yeah. At least you didn't call it Kevin.
No, well, it would have been Rafa if it had been a kitten and I'd got it like at the time, because that was when we got her. But yeah, she's good. She's a good mouser, as the COP here. Miles Starforth, I'll pick his tweet out. Just one of the quotes that Eddie Howe gave today. And Neil, I'll come to you first on this. Eddie Howe on the style of play tomorrow. "I'd like to think you'll see a Newcastle team playing in the way I want to. I think you'll see a team playing for the shirt, the supporters, the badge, and doing the city proud." Wow. A hell of a turnaround again. We'll keep saying this, and I know it's only words, and words are cheap. We want to say action, but he says all the right things, Mitch.
Words are cheap, but they're very well-placed words. That's somebody who's obviously, bought into it. And you know what? If you see the way both Amanda Staveley and Merdad go on about the club, once you've had any interaction with them, I don't think it's hard to get that infectious feeling from them that will drive and motivate top to bottom. Howard is probably better media trained than the previous manager. I think his words would suggest that. But I don't think they're empty words. I think they're words that actually, he wants this. And this is what he wants. And I think that comes across in everything he's said so far, not just in one press conference. But at the end of the day, we need to see that reflected on the pitch tomorrow. That's the only way that those words can really be backed up. But it sounds like it won't be for the lack of trying on his part.
You're definitely right, because Amanda Staveley says all the right things, Steve, as this was shown on Black and White Banter this week. I can't wait to have the Sports Direct signs taken down. I've had one of them massive mugs in the house for years. It's too big to fit in the cupboard and too big to drink from. We had to put an effing Yankee candle in it.
You remember seeing that mug when we did any Zoom calls for that?
But yeah, joking aside, anyhow, I mean, he's had 2 press conferences and already he's got me eating out of his hand. It's great to hear. It's just positivity, saying the right things. Again, proof of the pudding is on the pitch tomorrow, but he's saying the right things.
Yeah. I think what's interesting is that I remember somebody telling me that when it came to Steve Bruce and talking to the media, you got but then when it came to the camera or in front of the press, he would just go off on his own anyway. So you had no guarantee of what he was going to say was actually going to be, what had been drilled, what had been discussed, in terms of how he was going to approach it. It literally, I've listened to yours, now I'm going to do it my way. I think what you're seeing with Howe, I think, and Mitch is absolutely spot on, a man who's media savvy, but a man who's media trained, and a man who's willing to spend time possibly with his media team and the PR team and that they've got at the club now, and listen and come up with the right form of words, know exactly what the pitch is going to be, how they're going to approach certain topics, what's going to be left on the sidelines in terms of what's not for discussion. We saw that in his very, very first press conference. Yeah. But here today, we're hearing some very, very interesting things. And I think the key to it as well, that Miles was probably wanting fans to pick up on, was that playing the game my way. You know, this is the manager saying he's in charge. This is the manager letting his squad know that he spent 10 days with you. We've come up with a system, and that's the system we're going to be doing. You're going to play this football, this entertaining football, but it'll be my way. It might take a few weeks, might take a few months, but he's going to have square pegs in square holes, not round holes. And he'll have drilled that team. And as I said right at the very start, the next 8 games is going to be vital, just as much for the squad as it is going to be for the fans. Because if you're not performing, you're not putting in the graft. And we're talking about the bleep tests and the 60%ers. And from what I'm picking up, the players have really, really raised their game in terms of fitness levels. They feel a lot fresher. They feel as though that they're now ready for to go out and put performances in over 90 minutes. They're not playing that staccato way that seemed to be, where it seemed to be play for 10, stop for 10, step back for 10, and then you can't get back in for the following 10. And then next thing you know, it's half time or the second half and you're into time added on, all that type of stuff. So it's certainly, it's letting we know that there's somebody in charge and we're going to play the game in a certain way, and it's sending that message out to all of us, staff, players and fans.
I think something else he said as well, which is interesting, was about how he was talking about he wants to focus on the players he's had the most time with, while the others have been away in international breaks. Now, it makes me wonder, did Ryan Fraser know that's what he was going to come out with? Because he's been around Eddie Howe before, when he withdrew from the Scotland squad, created a little bit of hoo-ha because he was then training the next day. And that makes me wonder, did Ryan Fraser kind of know what was coming? Very interesting move, that. But equally, quite right too. He's had these people around him, and so they're the ones who will be the most drilled. So therefore, these should be the ones most equipped to play his way. And these are big messages he's sending to the players, and he's not frightened to do it via the media, but in a much more careful and considered way than, say, Bruce coming out and chucking people under the bus, because that's what he did. I don't think you'll see Eddie Howe chuck anybody under the bus, but I think equally you will name names and point fingers when appropriate. And so it's a balance, but it's a far better balance, and it's a far more controlled message through the media, and calm, I think, as well. There just seems to be a lot more calm coming out of St James's Park now. And so it all points in really good directions at the minute.
Yeah, it definitely does. Get a hold of that if you can online. You'll be able to see Eddie Howe's press conference. It's well worth watching. It just makes you smile, which is what football and sport is supposed to do. I do want to point out and say thanks again to everyone who follows us. And I mean, yeah, we are. It's 4:00 in the afternoon, over 300 watching live, which is fantastic. But figures we had last month: 1,341 new subscribers, 450,000 total views, 6.7 million minutes watched. Thank you very much to everybody who supports NUFC Matters. It does matter to us that you care so much to make us continue doing these shows. And as I say, we only did it for lockdown, but here we are still chugging along, and thanks for your support. And a sellout gig tonight in aid of the food bank, which should be a cracking night. Looking forward to seeing everybody. I see a lot of people in the chat saying that they are looking forward to seeing everybody tonight. And yeah, I'm sure we'll all say a few words. People are asking if we're going to say anything. I'm sure we will at some point. So yeah, looking forward to seeing everybody tonight. Okay, Anton says, what do you all make of the media narrative at the minute? It seems everyone wants to keep bashing us when they can. I've noticed Gulam Balag was bashing the club again yesterday. Steve, media narratives, we've been here before. Nothing's really changed. We're still really stuck in the middle of a geopolitical argument through no fault of our own. I did Simon Pride's Total Sport on Monday after I finished a live true crime podcast, and one of the first questions he asked us was about the issue that Saudi have with human rights, and ultimately for me, obviously I'm well tuned at answering that particular question. I've got my own opinions, and I gave my view, and that was it. We moved on, but it's not just the national media; it's every bit of media asks that question. One of the first questions Eddie Howe faced as Newcastle manager was exactly the same. It's never going to go away, and I can understand in a lot of reasons why. But then some of the other stuff we've seen, the well-covered Daily Mail stuff last week, in particular, it is getting a bit boring now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they're important topics, Steve, that naturally people want to air. But are they airing them with the right people? They're airing them, or they're wanting the discussion to be held by football fans and Newcastle fans in particular. I'm not seeing anybody throwing questions at the government. I'm not seeing anybody throwing questions at the opposition. I'm not seeing anybody throwing questions at the Lib Dems or anyone else for their opinion. It seems to be all targeted, and the answers that they're looking for all seem to be wanting to come from Newcastle United supporters. And that's what we're going to have to learn to grow up with. I think you're absolutely spot on. The same thing there was a little bit of a gap during the week because people then started to realise once the World Cup qualifiers for the European countries was over, that there was a focus on Qatar as well, and that's another area. I would imagine Man City will be getting questions about the UAE at some point because of what's happening geopolitically with the connections that they're now making with Syria, for example, trying to be the peacemakers. So there's an awful lot goes on, but at the end of the day, it's got to be treated with respect. It's got to be treated with sympathy, and it's got to be treated in the right way. And I think, unless we're all going to educate ourselves in the whole geopolitical system that seems to be occurring and has been occurring in the Middle East since 1947 and before that, you're never ever going to be able to come up with an answer that's going to satisfy one particular area of the media, because the other side is immediately going to come back at you, and this is just going to perpetuate. So I'd like to think that the narrative can slow down a little bit. We can allow the politicians and we can allow the people who understand the area, and that for me is the people who live in that particular area, who live their life there. Perhaps if we ever get the opportunity to visit, we can come back and we can have our little sort of 5 penneth worth out of it and let people know how we felt if we do go. And the same for anyone who's been there, who watches the show. They can tell us what they think of it. I mean, Mitch lives in the Middle East. My daughter lives in the Middle East. I've been to Dubai quite a few times to visit. Totally different environment, I'm sure, to other areas of the Middle East. But I go for a holiday and I go to visit relatives. I don't go to enter into political discussions with anyone, and that's the fact. That I've got none of the answers that the people are looking for when it comes to what's going wrong, what needs to be done to put it right. I haven't got those answers, Steve. But this is what we're going to have to put up with. You're absolutely spot on. This is where the drivers from certain quarters, from certain newspapers are leading us down. Is it a rabbit hole? Probably. Do we want to be down there? Definitely not. Because, like I say, I'm not fully qualified in every aspect of geopolitical life in the Middle East.
Yeah. Okay, Mitch, what's your take on the media's obsession with bringing down the tune?
It's really very difficult, and yet they seem unable to get that we as a fan base can be excited about the future of Newcastle United and thankful for the money that's potentially coming into the club and the region, and still have reservations and questions about the politics of the country where the money is coming from. We are allowed to do that. It's not mutually exclusive. Just because you want to support the club doesn't necessarily mean you're going to whitewash over, human rights and political issues. Living in the region, I can tell you how complex the geopolitics. It's why we were using the word geopolitics ages and ages ago, and sometimes people were like, "What the hell are you talking about?" Well, welcome to it. This is what we're in there, and it was only ever going to get worse, different, but worse. And it's going to last a while. It's super complicated. The politics of the region is fraught with religious schism and who's got the biggest wallet, and it's always like a family argument. It's super complicated. And so we're not going to solve it as a fan base overnight, nor should we expect it to. However, They're ignoring things like when the club tweeted about in support of the footballer in Australia who came out, that our fan base was quite ready to jump over anybody from Saudi who was having a go on the Twitter account and say, "Oh, we're Geordies, we accept this, we support this, this is how we behave."
Yeah.
And I think that's an important message as a fan base to send back to the region. That in some way we can have it. We're not going to solve it. But if we are true to ourselves as Geordies and true to ourselves as the people who stand behind that flag that Bill has with dignity on it and support everybody's welcome in Newcastle. Doesn't matter who you are and what you are and where you go and where you're from. And we will support our club and our city, but we'll do it in the right way, with dignity, with respect. And if we're prepared as a fan base to push back a little bit on that sometimes, I don't think that can be seen as a bad thing. However, I don't think certain parts of the media, and I don't know why the BBC in particular seem to be keen to have a bash, although I've noticed the BBC are keen to have a bash at Dubai at the minute as well. So there's maybe something going on in the region that the BBC got to be in their bonnet about. But they're never going to report the good things.
No,
they're just not, because they don't make the clicks. They don't make the headlines the same way the negative things do, unfortunately. And we've got to keep taking it on the chin, sadly, and not react and not look like we're part of sports washing, which is super difficult.
Yeah,
it's super difficult. You've got somebody coming at you, poke. You're going to turn around, bat the hand and tell them to F off. And you see that sometimes on social media, and it's really difficult for that not to look like somebody's been dragged into the whole sports washing thing.
I put an article up on Twitter, and I sent it to you and Stewie, and it was Stuart Penman, and it was an article from I think it was from the Sun from 2016, and it was an article that said that the Scottish football fans had decided that it wasn't even worth qualifying for Qatar 2021 because it was going to be a dry competition. There was going to be no alcohol. You couldn't drink. Move on 5 years, they've reached the qualifiers, and they're into the final stretch with possibly 2 games to go to qualify for the in the playoffs, and the whole country is absolutely, high as kites that they thought they're going to be there. So there's one media 5 years ago saying that this is what they wanted, and now you've got the reality is that the country wants. I listened to a very, very good article that said it was on a radio station earlier in the week where the guy was asked questions about Qatar, and he was asked questions about what it was going to be like now that England had qualified, and he said, You'll find that you show respect to the country in the same way as any tourist should when they go there. But if you're going to take your shirt off and stand in a street, as fans sometimes do in this country, you'll be lifted for it. You'll be it's frowned upon. He also said that, and he had just come back from Qatar, and he said it's frowned upon to show affection in the street, and that wasn't just homosexuals, gay, members of the LGBT community that he was getting at. He was getting at everybody. He was saying that, this is husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend, boyfriend and boyfriend, girlfriend and girlfriend, whatever it happened to be. It didn't matter. It was the fact that the country does not particularly like showing of affection in public. So it shows you it's a that's on a very, very broad level of what it's like in the Middle East in certain parts of the Middle East. And I know that's like sort of a very broad brush approach to talking about. And it's not, some people might say it's human rights that you're allowed to hold hands or show affection or take your shirt off or whatever. But that's the culture of that particular country that you have to stick to and abide by when you're visiting them. In the same way as if people came here, you wouldn't want certain things to be happening in this country. We're talking about freedoms, but this is when it gets complex. This is when it gets complicated. And then you get the added political aspect the fact that you've got one country that doesn't like another country, one part of a religion falls out with another part of a religion, and then you get the radicalization of people and what goes on in people's minds in terms of trying to radicalize us in the opposite direction to cause, to prompt the causing of offence. So it's going to be a learning curve for everybody. The World Cup's going to be interesting, and I think the World Cup and how it comes about in Qatar can help everybody, because we'll see. But what was also described is, you've got to remember, the World Cup is a Disneyland. It's a 4-week Disney. It's not a real thing. In Brazil, for example, in 2014. The government, one of the most crime-ridden cities, Rio, the government suddenly announced there was going to be no crime for 4 weeks during the World Cup.
Breaking news, Steve. Sorry to interrupt you, but people will want to know this, and it's good news. Lee Charnley has officially left the building. Announced on Newcastle United's website a couple of seconds ago. Newcastle United can confirm that Managing Director Lee Charnley has left the club following a handover period with the new ownership group. Lee has been with the club for 22 years, the last 7 of which were the Magpies Managing Director. Newcastle United was acquired by an investment group led by PIF, PCP Capital Partners and RB Sports and Media in October. The club's new board will continue to oversee all operations. The club has begun a formal recruitment process to appoint a chief executive officer and will make an announcement in due course. Lee Charnley said, "To have been at Newcastle United for 22 years has been an honour and a privilege, and the club, its people and our city will always be very special to me. As it enters a new chapter in its history, new owners, I wish Amanda and the rest of the board and everyone connected with the club every success." Amanda Staveley said, "I'd like to thank Lee sincerely for his support and professionalism during this time of change. His knowledge and assistance have been hugely appreciated by the club's new board. Lee ends a long association with the club, and on behalf of the board, staff and players, I'd like to wish him the very best for the future." So there it is, Mitch. He's gone. We thought he was gone. We thought it was,
I thought the more start at 3:30. What did they wait till 4 o'clock?
Exactly, yeah. But he's gone. He's gone, and I mean that is really the final removal of Ashley's ill-fated era.
Was always going to happen at some stage. It made sense to keep him on because there's so little in terms of staff in certain positions that Lee Charnley, to use a phrase, knew where all the bodies were buried, and probably very few other people did. And so it made sense to keep him on for a period, but it's obvious to me now then that there's a lot more pieces of the jigsaw puzzle about the way the club is going to work falling into place, that they're now in a position to say, right, Lee, thank you very much, we can now move on and do it our way. Would suggest to me there's going to be layers of support to the board going in very, very soon to help plan the future of the football club and take it in the direction they want to take it. So, and also having him around that bit too long, he becomes a little bit of a problem for them because he'll be a stick that people could beat the club with. Oh, well, that'll be Lee Charnley's fault, So I think getting them away from the club in a prompt but not too hasty fashion is probably quite right.
Yeah, probably right. Not being too hasty.
No, absolutely not. I mean, we talked about this before, haven't we? And it needed when you've had a club that's been run with a one-man board, as it was. That person, when it comes to the conversations that you're going to have, the meetings that you need to turn up to with the Premier League, etc. There's a certain amount of continuity that you need over a period of time while you just find your feet in the office, find out where the T's and copies are made, where the paperwork is, what is the role, what's your role has been as, because at one point he was club secretary, remember? Then he became the managing director. Before that, I think he ran the reserve team. He was Russell Cushing's T-boy stroke looking after the reserve team. Perfectly honest. I mean, I obviously I'd met him on many occasions at the fans forum, and on other occasions when we're either invited to various meetings, various get-togethers. I actually had a one-on-one with him, as did the NUFC members and a few other fan groups. That was just years ago. I'm fine. You could hold a conversation with him, hold his own.
Steve will come back to you because your internet's dropping off a little bit, so we'll get Mitch's view on that. You're just starting to. He's
a bit Norman Collier, isn't he?
He is, yeah. I'll just put you on mute till he gets sorted, mate. Go on, Mitch. Yeah, he's away out. Go on, Mitch. Give us your views on the departure then.
Well, yeah, I mean, I had minimal contact with him at the early stages when me and Steve were seeing Derek Lambias quite a lot. And he was always just in the background. And it seemed to be between him and who was the other guy that went to the airport and he's now at Liverpool Airport? I can't remember the guy's name. John Irvin. And it always seemed to be between Lee Charnley and John Irvin about who was the next to step up, as it were. And then once John had left the club, it left Lee in a very prime position to step in. He's always going to be seen as Ashley's man, unfortunately, for him. I think that the ties will be forever cemented, probably even more so than Lambias even. And you do wonder, there were certain things happened over time. And I never wondered whether they were just genuine mistakes or whether they were deliberate. Things like running Yedlin's work permit down. So we're in a position where we had to sell him. That was plainly ridiculous when we were desperate for defenders at the time. And here we are selling a right back who wanted to really stay, but he couldn't because the paperwork for his work permit had been screwed up, Too many basic things like that not being done right and not being done well. And so that unfortunately for him will be his legacy. And this sort of almost seen as just a yes man to Ashley. And so to see that, I guess the next thing is once the Sports Direct signs go from the ground, you can properly say that the clear out's just about done. I do think there are still some people in the background at the club who are now drug shoots almost, because they're still Ashley's people, and I think they are the next ones that should be nudged out of the way, and then the club can genuinely move on. Ashley, with the fingerprints of Ashley finally erased from every corner. And I think that's what everybody's going to feel. I think this is going to be received as generally positive news by the fan base. I've got no doubt about that. And why shouldn't it be?
Steve, you got cut off in your prime there, mate. Anything else to say on Lee Charnley?
No. I mean, just that I always found him very, very easy to get on with, easy to talk to, very amiable. He would listen. Whether he was ever in the position to be able to take anything on board, that's a different matter. But we know where that came from. And I think what's interesting is just what I caught there at the end from Mitch, that I think there are people up there that did have a comfort blanket wrapped around them when Ashley was there. I think there was an awful lot of people who used the excuse that we can't do that because it's come from the top. And often many things hadn't come from the top. It was just it was like the path of least resistance that people took. I think now a few people will be sitting there going, well, can I really do this job? Because this job is going to be bigger than I thought, or is bigger than I thought. It was all right when it was a nice little cushy number, when I could get away with pushing this into the back of the cupboard and that in the back of the cupboard. But now I'm going to be under scrutiny myself. And that's the way it has to be when new owners come in, by the way. Whenever you take over a new business, you review and put people in, and you get the company to run the way that you want it to run, not as a shadow of what it used to be. And if people can't, they can't stand the heat, they're going to have to get out of the kitchen, because it might appear to be all nicey at the moment. It might be that they've got smiley faces and that Amanda's getting on with them, but This is like a honeymoon period. They're gonna soon be jumping because the whole emphasis within the club is going to move on at a rapid rate of knots, and they're going to have to be prepared to be on that journey and have the ability to do it as well. But Lee Charnley's gone, as you say. New brush will sweep clean, and great. That's at the end of the day. That's what we wanted. That's what everybody's been screaming for, and for some people it'll make tomorrow an even better day, because we're going in completely clean now.
Yeah, we are. Geordie Tune for Life says Eddie Howe seems impressed with Joe Linton in training and extra training, so hats off for him giving it a real go. Do the lads think he'll start tomorrow? I've deservedly knocked him in the past. So, he praised Shelby as well in the press conference, and I guess really he's got to really keep these players on side. He needs a unified dressing room, Mitch, because you can't go in and say, well, he's crap, and yeah, I agree with all the fans. He's got to really build the morale from the start, and I'd like to think that everybody starts with a clean sheet, he picks his own side accordingly from what he's seen in those first 2 weeks at the club.
Yeah, and I still insist there's a player in there somewhere with Joe Linton, and he has attributes, just doesn't always seem to be able to use all of them all of the time. And whether that's a mental thing, whether that's how he can work out how to get inside his head and get the best out of him, I'm all for it if he does, really. And I'm always impressed with a player who'll come and do extra. It's the easiest thing in the world to pick your pay packet up and just go home. It's the classic Sir Bobby Robson quote about how do you make a rich man sweat. If you look at I'll give you two players, Andy Carroll, Niall Ranger. They came through at about the same time, and at one point, there's no doubt Niall Ranger was ahead of Carroll. Yeah. And who was the one that used to stay behind with Kevin Nolan and do extra? It was Carroll. And bit by bit, he got better and better, while Niall Ranger was chucking 50 quid notes around because he was late for training, and he was wandering around like Billy Big Bollocks and upsetting all of the youth squad and generally causing havoc. And that, if you're prepared to put that extra in, it comes back in spades, I believe. And so if he's prepared, bearing in mind these are training sessions that sound like they've been brutal at times, and he's going back saying, I'll have a bit more of that, that'd be great. You've got to love that attitude. You can't knock that attitude at all. And so, hey, I'm all for it. If he can bring a player out in him and make him look like a £40 million player, happy days. We all win then, don't we?
We do. Chris says if he gets a shift out of Shelby, he'll go down as a miracle worker, Steve.
Yeah. I put a tweet out before that I thought that a Shelby playing in a more advanced position could bring out the best of a Shelby, because I always feel as though he just literally sits in front of the back four, but the back four are so far behind, they're virtually behind the goal at times.
Steve, if you take some of those balls he tries to play from the so-called quarterback position, right, and you put those balls being played 30 yards further up the pitch, some of them balls are killers.
Exactly.
They're absolute killers. You're absolutely right in it.
Yeah, and if you've got a striker that's desperately looking for a through pass, into a run that he's making, not with his back to goal, but the fact that he's getting the ball either over the top or through into the channel. If you've got a ball that's coming in for either Wilson or an Almiron or a San Maximin or a Joe Willock bypassing you and running on, or a Sean Longstaff, that's when all of a sudden that extra 30 yards further up the field makes a massive difference to me. But it also has to come with a defensive partnership and pairing at centre-back and the two full-backs, if you're playing a back four, that is confident in itself to be able to play 15, 20 yards further up as well.
Yeah.
And then you've got other midfielders who are working, and they're working together so that when they see a problem or when they see a gap appearing, that they can go and close that gap down to support each other. That's the sort of thing that I've felt we've never had for the last 2.5 years. It's interesting that you talked about Andy Carroll there. I love those, when people talk about a player coming back, or a player not coming back, but a player coming back for extra work. The best one I ever came across in all my years was a story about Bobby Charlton, where he went to Manchester United as a young lad. And one of the very, very first sessions that he had done with Matt Busby put an X on the wall, a huge brick wall, and he just said, in the afternoons you take shooting practice, and they were shooting against a brick wall. And he did that every afternoon, constantly taking shots at this wall, aiming for the cross, the little X in one of the bricks. And he never, Matt Busby was only a young kid. He must have only been like 15, 16-year-old. And Matt Busby didn't really have much to do with him. And then one day he just walked over and he went up to the brick wall and he got a hold of the brick and the brick came out. All the mortar was gone from around the brick. And he pulled the brick out and then he turned around to him and went, "You're ready now." And it was like, that was like, I just found that like the most amazing. I'm not sure it was in an early autobiography of Bobby himself or whether it was a Matt Busby autobiography that I was reading. But that little story's always stuck with me. And that for me showed that a player just going back in the afternoon, Peter Beardsley would have done it. He would have gone back. Probably, well, Peter was probably still there at 8 o'clock at night when they were trying to lock the door to get him to go home, because that was what players of his ilk, skillful, but they work on that game all the time.
Same with Beckham and his free kicks.
Yeah.
He'd spend hours on his own in the afternoon with one of those mock-up walls and a couple of bags of balls, just putting free kicks into the top corner. Bang, 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 bang. That was why when it mattered, that free kick for England against Greece, for example, when it really mattered, that's when those things pay off.
And don't forget your old friend John Burridge.
Aye. Budgie, man. I mean, God, way ahead of his time. He was still playing in leagues here in Dubai when he lived in Dubai. Yeah. He was playing with some of my mates, and he's in his 60s and he's still fit as a bloody fiddle.
But he was still throwing the ball at him when he was lying in bed.
Oh,
test us, throw a tin of beans at us. I'll not know it's coming, but I'll dive and catch all those daft little stories that you hear. But that's what people like that, focused, and they just practice like him. It's a snooker player, isn't it? If you don't practice, then you're not going to get anywhere,
Yeah, I remember the PE teachers at school with our eldest Robin, and used to say she had glue hands when she could catch anything. And I'm like, aye. Because our brother's usually drilling a cricket ball at her at 200 miles an hour every 5 minutes, Ching, 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 and she can catch out. It's ridiculous.
Nicholas asks, is it too early for a can? No, of course not, mate. We'll see you tonight. Looking forward to seeing you. We've got just over 50 minutes left of the show. We're going to have a slightly shorter one. We've got to get something to eat, except before we head out to tonight's shindig. And as always, we have regular features on the show. First up, the day I met, where we ask you to send in photographs of you and famous faces from Newcastle United. And first of all, this one from the NUFC Mags. He said, "This is my son 10 years ago meeting Supermac, Bernie Slavin and Mickey Horswell." Thanks for that. Really? And we've got this one from Steve Bennett. "Meet Rowe on a red-eye flight from Toon to Amsterdam the morning after his equaliser in the derby. I was heading back to work, him to a Serbia international. Yes, I was a little hungover." And that woman photobombing you behind as well, Steve, is interesting. I'm not 100% sure who sent us these, because they sent us them a while back and I found them on my phone, but thank you all the same. Real blast from the past with the entertainers. David Batty, Warren Barton, a very young Keith Gillespie and Rob Lee there at Stevenage Station, and the same young lad at the same station with Tino Aspria. So thank you, whoever it was who sent them in. And last but by no means least, Carl Barnes, me and the greatest Premier League striker of all time, Alan Shearer. Thanks for that, Carl. Keep
Brilliant.
them coming in. Send them to me at Steve Wraith on Twitter or any of the other lads. Ping them over. That is the day I met. Yes, keep those coming in. Yano says, guys, we've got 4 goalkeepers. None of them would make a top 10 side, given there are a number of top-class keepers available now. Isn't that an area we should strengthen in? I've said yes. I say yes. Dubravka will get us through to the end of the season, but I genuinely feel goalkeeper is where you should strengthen. I think if you're going to build a bastion of invincibility, as Shankly used to say at Liverpool, I think you need to build from the back, and a goalkeeper's your first port of call. Then a good centre-half, couple of good midfielders, couple of good strikers. Build the rest around it. You need somebody, like Terry Hibbert to supply the bullets for the strikers to fire. But I think we've got enough creativity. I just think we need to go through the complete spine. I'd say yes, 100%. What do you think, Mitch?
Depends on the style. I think if you look at Liverpool and Man City and Chelsea, for example, Chelsea's taken ages to get their keeper situation sorted, and they've almost just stumbled across it by accident with Mendy. Having spent 70 million on Kepa, and he was an absolute disaster, just not ready for the Premier League. Alisson at Liverpool, same with Edison at Man City, both in the sweeper keeper style. That's, seems to be important to the way that they both play. If you're going to talk about, gegenpress and pushing the back line up, you need a keeper who is comfortable to come out and use their feet. Could you say that about Dubravka? Possibly not. I think as an all-round keeper, though, I think Dubravka's up there with them still. My only issue with Dubravka is I don't know how often he commands his area the way I would like to see. I'm still stuck with the best keeper I've ever seen was Schmeichel, the elder. And he used to scare his backline, terrified him. But that box was his. And anything in there was his. And I would like to see a keeper more in that style personally. But I don't know if that fits the modern way that people want to play. I think they tend to have to be a bit more agile and a bit more all-round footballers. And I don't know if you can say that about Dubravka. I think kicking is a weak area for him, which is a shame because he's a bloody good keeper.
Steve, what's your thoughts? Good analysis there by Mitch. I don't think you could top that. I think we probably all agree, but I still think, you build from back.
Some interesting thought. I mean, Schmeichel actually scared his own back four, and he scared the ones up front as well, Mitch. Because that's how good he was. He was a frighteningly good goalkeeper. But
he would be my number one choice in any best ever World 11. Right. Full stop. You can keep your Dinos offs for me. Peter Schmeichel was the one. I know.
I think you quoted a couple of keepers there, a couple of examples. Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City. I think another one to look at is what Arsenal have done, bringing Ramsdale in. £24 million. Everybody, when he was signed, questioning what was going on, questioning whether he was ever going to get a look in against Jay Leno or whatever he's called. And then he gets his spot, and he's transformed their season. Absolutely transformed. All of a sudden, Arsenal look a totally different team. They were first 3 games of the season. I mean, rock bottom. People had them as almost relegation fodder. They were there to be shot down. It was, they were going to be the worst team in London. All of those comments that were being made. He come in, and it shows you what I'm trying to get at is it shows you how important the position is, how vitally important in the game. that the goalkeeper is. You get a good goalkeeper, but a goalkeeper that your defenders are confident of playing in front of, and confident that if somebody gets past them, that is the last line of defence and he will work on it. You're right. I think you're right about the command of the box. Although I think Dubravka of all of them is the only one that does command his box. I think that what we've seen again is if Dubravka hasn't got defenders that are on top of him, he's fine. But sometimes you get in the situation where you get that congested area, or you get silly back passes that come to him at 90 miles an hour. And it gets caught out at his feet. It gets caught out. But all of those things that can be worked on in training, they can be worked on with the coaches, that we worked on with the goalkeeping coaches. I know the goalkeeping coaches that we have tend to work on fitness levels, agility, shot stopping, positional play, where you need to be. And maybe that's an aspect of the game and it's certainly an aspect of the game that I only ever see if I get in early to a match and you see the goalkeepers warming up. And a lot of the warm-ups are kicks. A lot of the warm-up is, but it's this throw the ball up in the air. It's not even a half volley anymore. It's literally like slicing the ball, but your foot, the foot's coming up this high when they're kicking it. It's coming from the side to level it. And you watch them, and they can ping a ball like a golfer does with a golf ball. They can ping that ball down the sidelines and to somebody's feet. That they can do it. But in the game, it's very rare that you even see goalkeepers, certainly at Newcastle, using their feet in that way. It tends to be that either gets caught under them, or it's a kick that ends up going into the crowd. The number of times we've seen this season from all our keepers, or the two that have played, the ball ends up in the crowd, and that's a confidence thing as much as anything else. So you could be right, you could be onto something there in terms of the spine. I think Dubravka's good enough. What I'm going to question is he fit enough? I think he's had 2 serious injuries over the last 2 seasons where he's been out for long spells. Only ever seemed to come back in time for international duty. He certainly made a difference when he came back in terms of our results last season. But then straight after another injury, and I mean, we haven't seen him kick the ball this season. And you know what? I don't think he'll play tomorrow. I think that, again, because he's been on international duty, that there's every possibility that Eddie Howe, if he's going to make changes, it's going to be changes among the personnel of players that have been here for the last fortnight with him. I don't think people who have been on international duty will be ready yet in his mindset for to come in. So let's see.
All the big questions here. Dave says, Mitch, did you play football for Heaton?
No, I didn't. Okay. No, I've never played football for Heaton. And I'd like to say to Steve, I like my pirate trousers. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the pirate trousers have had an airing again by the sounds of it. It's big news across in the Gulf states. People closing their curtains or blinds or whatever they've got as Mitch walked past the house or apartment. Yes, never been more looking forward to seeing
Ralph bloody Loren, man. They're bloody great.
The Ralph Loren, you want to give them back?
The phrase pirate pants sends me into shudders, I must admit.
I tell you what, if they're pirate pants, you could probably give them to Paddy Conroy, mate. Get him a pair.
It did suit him. Did suit him very well, I'm sure.
Might as well put that. Somebody sent us that chicken stock and laughing stock. Yeah, I'll leave that there for those who know. For those who know, they know. Okay, time, as I say, is against us tonight with the Christmas do. So it's time to have another one of our sections, which is Tweet of the Week. Tweet of the Week, where you highlight tweets, or we find them and we stick them up on the screen. Some quite funny ones, as always, and quite bizarre ones. This one just from Wilfred. I mean, as we know, a lot of stuff goes on Twitter during the week. He just sends this. Time for evening vibes, Nigeria style. All the trolls are invited. If you can get yourself on a flight, come and party with me tonight in my crib in Nigeria. We don't do hate over here. We live real good life. How are the lads? I love that, Wilfred.
I love the idea of Wilfred having a crib.
Well, yeah, it did, and it was just the red piano and everything. I just thought, he's living the life. This one was from...
Does he have a hat collection like Shola?
He probably does, yeah. This one from Ben Jacobs. He went, God,
Fantastic.
I had to take a second take. Of course, it's someone patting a dog. I can see why you took a second take, Ben. Yes, I can.
I'm glad he did.
Yeah, thanks for that. This is in reply to one of last week's lookalikes. Wayne Bennett had obviously sent a photograph of Fraser Digby alongside Jason Tyndall as a lookalike. And I was going, why on earth would you even have, like, some kind of Swindon obsession? He hasn't got a Swindon obsession. He goes, I'll explain, Steve. I'm originally from Swindon and I was a regular season ticket holder, including the year Swindon were in the Premiership, 92, 93, I think. So thanks for clearing that up, mate. I've got no idea who this was off. Who was it? Can anybody remember? Was it Al Walid?
I think it was, yes. I think he found it, yeah.
He found it, yeah. The three Amigos on a T-shirt, and very good. He stuck our heads on there. I think Al Walid's done that. Steve, your reception's gone a little bit again, mate. Your reception's gone a little bit, so I'll knock you out until you can get yourself sorted. I don't know what it is. Must be problems in Newcastle tonight. No thunderstorms. He's away again.
How can somebody who's only bloody 10 miles for you have worse reception than me, and I'm halfway around the bloody world?
I've got no idea. Stephen Chow says, I never thought I'd say this, but can I hear more from Richard Keys, please? And just that photograph was yes, I don't think we'll hear any more from Richard, to be perfectly honest. Greg O'Grady says, Bruce has the pundits lying for him. He's basically, he says, when you Google him, it says 83 kilos. Yeah, I can see what happens. Never believe everything you see on the internet, Greg, is what I would say to that one. I love this one. Rich Joblin. Eddie Howe getting the beers in down the 3 mile for the boys. Very late.
That's spectacular. Good effort, that, like.
Good effort by that lad, yeah. I just hope he got up the stairs all right. This one from your Jed. Lassie, get help. And then we see Lassie lying on a psychiatrist's couch. I don't know where Jed gets these from. I really don't, but they are. There is some good. I've started watching his account on a regular basis. And he says, with the new feel-good factor around the club, I'm assuming a throwback to the mullet-perm combo from the 80s will soon be mandatory for all first-team squad members, including Shelby.
I know what's going to happen here. I can just, we're going to get lookalikes and somebody's going to send a picture in of one of my mates of me with a perm. I know it's going to happen.
Well, we'll keep that for later. There is coming. There is stuff coming. This was from Paulie. But obviously, I get a bit of trolling, as people know. In next week's edition of Tariq Talk Shite, Tariq claims the CIA have linked Steve Wraith to aid in Ronnie Biggs' escape from prison and hiding him under his Crombie coat. And Kate Stewart is the mole in the Watergate scandal. Stay tuned for more on Tariq's account. Yeah, I did find that funny, mate. It has been a weird old week again on that particular app. Andy McClay says, what is this sorcery I'm seeing? Practicing throw-ins? Whatever next? Yes, a little bit response to some of the photographs that were pushed out online of the training session. And
didn't get me dad started on them, mind you. You do a show on the technicality of the throw-in from me dad. Jesus.
Gemma, I'm going to give you tweet of the week this week. What have I missed? I don't think I want to know. And the lift is not a toilet. Pinned on the lift door at somebody's work. Absolutely minging what that came from. But well done, Gemma. You have got tweet of the week. Still plenty to cram into the last 35 minutes of the show. Time to give the sponsors a shout out though. And as always, we will start with Spider VPN. Give the lads a search on Google. They come up at the top of your Google search list. And they are the boys to trust with protecting your computer from people trying to nick your information. Great value for money as well. Spider VPN are the boys to trust, so Google them and give them a shout. Thanks to skipsandbins.com as well. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay as you go waste collection. And to LNG Family Funeral Directors 0191 389 7245. And John at qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle. Thanks to him for running our website as well, NUFCmatters.com. And to Jab Signature, thank you to you for making our flyers, jabsignature.co.uk. First time visitor to the channel, please subscribe. Hit the subscription button in the bottom right-hand corner, which is the Newcastle Legends logo, and that's it. It highlights it. Set it up. Hit the little bell and you will be notified when we go live or when new content is added. Hit the thumb up to like the video, click share to share to your other social media, and drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans. And iTunes, Spotify and other podcast providers, that's where you'll find us 24 hours after the show. We will usually have our stuff uploaded unless Media Arts' main guru is away. But yes, you can find us on there. So it means you can listen to us in your car, on your phone, or whatever you fancy. So get yourself onto there if you miss a show. And events, an evening with Peter Beardsley. NewcastleLegends.com, click shop. It's a week tonight, 7 o'clock at the Irish Centre. Should be a cracking night. I will be interviewing Peter about his life and times and his career. We will have a small auction and a raffle on that night as well. But still tickets left for that if you want to come along. £15 a ticket. And December the 9th, I will be doing an interview with Supermac at Bobix, the Punch Bowl, formerly the Punch Bowl in Jesmond. Bobix.com for your tickets for that. All proceeds for that one at the food bank as well. NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk matchday bucket is where you can donate virtually if you're not going to the match or you live away 365 days of the year. And don't forget as well, you've got a week to go before the Peter Beardsley event, so you can still have time to enter the raffle, which is for these custom-made Peter Beardsley trainers, which he will sign next Friday. Will be in your size, and I am the renovation. Thank you for donating them. Tickets are £1 each. NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk. Don't forget as well tonight, if you're coming along to the Christmas party, you can buy your membership package, which John from NUFCmatters.com has arranged, and plenty of other stuff to get your teeth into on the website as well. So have a look on there. Don't forget, tomorrow I am live at the Dog and Parrot with Malcolm, 1 o'clock. We will be looking ahead to the game, and then we will be back at 6:30, or probably maybe he's a little bit nearer to 6 o'clock. Actually, he's got 6:30 on there, but between 6 and 6:30, we'll be in doing a post-match talk about the game. We'll be doing a pre-match look ahead to the game as well. 11 o'clock in the morning. Me, Neil, Stu Penman, and Owley, views from the Middle East, which we also look forward to. Okay, as you know, regular viewers will know that John always has his competition, which he does every month. You get clues. You've got to write the answers to the clues down. Then the final clue in the final week, you have to get an answer, and then a prize will be given to the first person who John sees in the chat. So just refreshing your memory on the clues. That was the first one. That was the second one. And this is this week's clue. 14th of July, 1987, and a picture of the Tyne Bridge. Rather nice photograph that as well. So there you go. Write your answer to that one down, and you've got one more clue to get, which you will get next week, and hopefully you will be able to get in before anybody else and win John's prize from Q-Tech. Okay, we're going to start looking ahead to the Brentford game now, and as always we have our man Toon Stato to give us a few ideas as to what we should be expecting tomorrow.
Hello, amigos. Another new era begins with the managerial debut of Eddie Howe. He will be the 14th manager we have had in the Premier League. Out of the previous 13, only 4 have debuted with a win, and the names might be a bit surprising. It's Graham Souness, Glenn Roeder, Sam Allardyce, and the last one to start with a win was Alan Pardew back in 2010 against Liverpool in his first home game. So this time it's Brentford, and this will be the first ever top flight game between Newcastle and Brentford. Actually, so far in all competitions, they have 6 games at St. James's Park, with Newcastle having won 5, and the only win for Brentford coming way back in September 1934. I believe that even Steve Hasty will not remember this one. When it comes to the current season, everybody knows that Newcastle is without a win in the first 11 games, which is an all-time worst start to the season. But a positive sign is that the last two teams without a win in the Premier League actually got their first win against Brentford. Burnley in match day 10 and Norwich in match day 11. So let's see what week 12 is going to have for Newcastle. Other than this, Newcastle has the second worst defense in the Premier League with 24 conceded goals. And you might have heard that Brentford lost their last 4 games in the Premier League. They haven't lost 5 in a row since 2007. So a lot of interesting stats before the game on Saturday. Let's wish Eddie Howe and the lads first win for the season.
Great stuff, as always, from Toonstato. Andrea, thanks very much. And a good copy of Every Boy's Dream there in front of him. Bit of promotional pushing from him. I didn't, to be honest, lads, I didn't actually realise that's what he had when I watched it first time round. And then when I was looking at it, when I was uploading, I was going, oh, he's got me book there. But yeah, I was complimenting on his choice at top. But yeah, Brentford at home. As we know, Newcastle United returning to Premier League action on Saturday. A good 3 o'clock kickoff, as we always say. It is a sellout. So no tickets available on match day. And of course, Newcastle are looking for the first Premier League success of the season. 12th attempt, worst start of the season that we've had. Also trying to end a 5-match winless run at St James's Park. From our perspective, it's again a clean bill of health, apart from Paul Dummett. It's starting to become a little bit concerning that Paul Dummett is still injured and not seem to be anything on the horizon either. It's a bit weird, but yeah, obviously everybody else fit. We know that Ryan Fraser dropped out of Scottish internationals, so he should be looking chomping at the bit and playing in this game, I would have thought. Looking at the visitors, Brentford. I mentioned it last night on the Super Mac and Gibbo show, but Christopher Adja, Mads Sorensen, David Raya, Julian Genevieve, Matthias Jorgensen and Joshua De Silva are all out due to injury. But Johan Wissa and Shandon Baptiste could return. Obviously a good start for Brentford, but the last 4 games aren't good. And they're travelling to Tyneside on the back of 4 successive Premier League losses. The most recent, of course, was against our bottom of the table rivals, Norwich City. We do have an ex-mag coming back in attendance, and that is Ivan Toney, who's only scored 2 goals in the Premier League so far this season. But of course, both of those were away from home. This will be his first appearance if he plays at St James's Park since he made an appearance for Newcastle in a 3-3 draw against Man U back in January 2016. Referee is Robert Jones, the Scouser. And he last took a game for us in the game which only had 10,000 fans at home against Sheffield United. And on VAR is Kevin Friend. Interesting game this, Mitch, it really is for us. We're going to have a listen to what the betting odds are from our own resident Toon tipster.
Morning all. Toon Tipster here, calling in live from the balcony of the hotel that Q-Tip booked for me last week. It's absolutely gorgeous, nothing to worry about, and only a mile outside of Newcastle, just like he said. What a bloke. This week, I've had to go and get myself an agent due to me Twitter followers increasing by 12 since I've been part of NUFC Matters. What a guy Mike Whistle is. He's agreed to represent me for 40% of all of my NUFC Matters related earnings. So far, Mike, I've earned absolutely nout, but I have spent about 400 quid on crap t-shirts from Q-Tip. So by my reckoning, you owe me 160 quid. Thanks, brother. More alarmingly though, and on a serious note, I have been involved in a Twitter scandal this week. No, it's not trying to work out how Steve Wraith can be a Toon legend, crime author, actor, promoter, pigeon, and a Saudi spy by the name of 00 Kate, all at the same time. I got accused of using a script. Can you believe that? Don't forget to mention him being bald, Hasty looking like something that Led Zeppelin forgot to draw, and Mitch overcharging for questionable root canal work. Sorry, distracted there. My mate Andre's told me that we've never played this lot before in the top flight, so what a time to start the record books off with a loss. The odds are really close, but despite the revolution and despite Eddie Howe insisting that we train more than once a month, Newcastle are ever so slightly second favourites. 13-8 for the win, 17-10 for Brentford, and the draw is 12-5. If you fancy Eddie Howe to have an effect, 2-0 Newcastle 14-1 and 3-1 22-1. Ones each 6-1 and 1-0 Brentford 9-1. Ivan Toney, interestingly, pips Wilson in the favourite to score anytime market at 11-10. And in terms of the food bank, speaking of Wilson, he's 5-4 this weekend to get a goal for us. And I'm really confident that that's going to happen. I will, though, take full responsibility for motivating Harry Maguire in the week. Only a world-class motivational speaker could make him score 2 in the week that I likened him to Marcelino and put money on the other lads. Tickle, I missed...
Oh, well, he's cut off in his prime. What's going on? It must be dodgy internet in Middlesbrough.
Sorry, lads. Don't get much internet here in Jesmond, do you, Q-Tip? I don't know what's happened there, but hopefully for continuity purposes, you won't notice that there's been a glitch. Anyway, what I was saying was, in terms of the Tickle, we just missed out last week by 1 goal. Who's that fella there? We just missed out by the odd goal on absolutely smashing the bookies. I do like the over 1.5 goals bet, so this week I'm going to do it again, this time in the Premier League. So, every game tomorrow will have over 1.5 goals in it, and that is 6.5-1. I don't think that's too bad looking at the fixtures. Anyway, this has been emotional, and I've got a bus to catch. So if anyone knows where the metro station is here at Ayers Rock, give us a shout. Please bet safely. Please enjoy the match tomorrow. I absolutely can't wait. But first, I've got a 2019 Christmas party to get to. So I look forward to seeing you all tonight. Take care, folks. All the best. Bye-bye.
Great stuff as always. I mean, he's like Dick Emery and Russ Abbott rolled into one, isn't he?
Tries.
He's trying. He's very trying. Mitch, what about this game tomorrow? Then it's Eddie Howe's first game in charge. Got a full house, mate. It's going to be raucous. The war flags exhibit will be great. And I've made the point that we need to support the team through through the whole game tomorrow. 90 minutes of noise.
And if they can't get up for that in the middle of that, that'll tell Eddie Howe who's really in this for the long run and who's not. Let's be honest. I think the atmosphere is going to be fantastic. Brentford, the perfect potential opponents for a situation like this. They're not playing well. It's not that they've been beaten and been unlucky. From what I've seen of them, they just haven't played well at all. They are missing some key players as well. And this season was always going to be interesting for them, the way that their model works and the way they bring players through. And injuries were always going to be difficult for them to cover. So that they really are, we couldn't ask for a more perfect situation. We now have to action that. We've now got to see it happen on the pitch.
Steve, it's going to be it's going to be noisy. You agree with me that we need to have that continuity through the game. It's pointless getting 10 minutes in and then just everybody going because we haven't gone 1-0 up.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that there's nothing worse than going into a game carnival atmosphere, and then, like you say, it turns like after 10 minutes and moaning and groaning. It's not going because they've built their aspirations up so high that they feel as though one straight pass and it's the end of the world. You know, I always find that disappointing. It's something that's crept in the crowd over the last few years. I'm just hoping that tomorrow we and I'm sure we will be getting behind the team 100%, and being that 12th man that everybody talks about. You know, there used to be a time when St James's Park and the crowd was the 12th man, and playing 12 against 11, you were always an advantage. It's going to be interesting as well to see how Brentford do perform. As you say, Mitch, they've got a few players out. I watched a game against Wolves a couple of weeks ago, where they came out the traps, and I mean the wiped Wolves off the floor. Wolves were doing okay as well. You know, the Wolves crowd. It was one of those carnival atmospheres at Wolves, and they silenced that crowd pretty quickly. And you know, at one point, I mean, it could have been 4-0 up. It was 2 disallowed goals, if I remember rightly. And Tony just bullied that back four right across the line, whether it was central defenders or fullbacks. And he is going to be a handful, and he's certainly going to be up for it himself, because he's got stuff to prove, not simply as you know, because his game might have drifted over the last few weeks, but because he wants to show that Newcastle United made a mistake in letting him go. Although I think he was happy to go because he wanted to regenerate and rejuvenate his career. Because let's face it, he wasn't getting a look in at St James's Park under Rafa, because the fact was that Rafa couldn't trust anyone to play in that particular team, because it wasn't the sort of team that he could drop a youngster in, and Maurice the kid just wasn't ready. But it's going to be good. I see that score there. Somebody said 4-1. Somebody, can you remember who it was, Mitch, that sent us the Paddy Power bet that they had on? Was it Steve? And he said that he had put 4-2 and he had put 5-0 to win 4-2, and it was some ridiculous amount of money that he was pocketing, you know. And I thought, that's the sort of score that could possibly come home tomorrow, because both teams, you know, are relatively attacking, and if Newcastle are up for it, and we're playing this sort of expansive football that people are imagining, you know. But would I waste me £5? Probably not. Never do.
Sticking in the food bank bucket, Steve. And hopefully tonight, I know you've been working this week doing bits and bobs, but hopefully we'll have a talk, like a total, a standing total for what NUFC matters have raised. So that's what we'd like to have tonight, and hopefully be able to announce that, mate. So
do my best. It's been one of those, you know, I mean, the amount of money that's been flowing in just from the Mattis crowd over the last sort of 12 months has been phenomenal. We had a running total up to May. I need to just confirm a few figures, but I'm hoping that we can pull something out today that gives people an idea of how successful it's been, and how we'll also be able to tell them how important it is to support the food bank in the city, especially as we're coming into winter. Great gesture last night by the lads at True Faith, who ran an event, a full house in the Irish Centre, and another full house tonight. Unfortunately, I was with one of the ambassadors from Ireland upstairs on the 3rd floor last night, so I couldn't nip down to see how it was going. But I was certainly getting the feedback during the meeting from Bill, who was telling us that some great questions, some great things coming out, some great comments, and a lovely message apparently from Jamie Rubin.
Yeah, Jamie's texted me today to give us a message to read out tonight as well. So that tells you where we're at with the ownership here.
Exactly, and it tells you where you are with that family. You know, they've been very supportive for quite a while. I mean, they've been embedded in the city with the race course, but it is something that they've really embraced, and it's something that we should all first of all be very, very thankful of, and also be very supportive of, because it's brilliant. It's fantastic, you know.
Fantastic. Well, when you're adding up, Steve, in the next couple of hours, stick another 50 quid in, because Lee Major has bought that T-shirt tonight. He got the winning bid. I've copied you in on Twitter, and that is the Malcolm Dix T-shirt, which he says he's going to wear with pride because the man did so much for us in our history. Lee, great gesture. Thank you for that, mate.
I've
Does mean a lot.
I've got your message, mate. I'll DM you with who you need to contact for the size and how to pay. I'll give you the details of where you can drop the money into. That's really good of him.
Well done, mate. Well done. Okay, last 10 minutes of the show. Here we go for Two and Look Alike. Two and Look Alike, where we don't need to introduce anything really into this. Everybody knows what it's all about, and we always just have a lot of laughs at what people actually send in. This one was sent from Moxie Mag. He went, you like this one, Steve Wraith? I did do a little bit of an edit, but yeah, Keegan, old and young, Steve.
Oh, yeah, me. Hey, I'll be happy with that one. I'll settle for that one.
Yeah, no, he's a hero. So you don't mind being compared to a hero. Exactly. Yeah, Mitch, I will have to have a look through this, mate. But I think Mitch sent me this one, and yeah, there seems to be some absolute belters on there. I'll have to go through with a fine tooth comb, mate. But yeah, I will look at that. I'm sure other people will as well. Toon Barmy said this: Steve Wraith playing left back for Russia. Yeah, very good. Good. Very good likeness. Very good likeness, indeed. Steve Bennett, thanks for this one. Mbappe and Michelangelo, who, of course, was one of the Turtles, Turtle Power. I get it. Yeah, I can see it's a similar expression you've gone for there on the face, I guess. This one from Sam Chipperfield. I'm sure we've had this dog make an appearance before. He says, a dog who looks like Steve Hasty. Yeah. Definitely, and probably a good time for Steve to freeze again there with his internet. It was perfect. Wayne Bennett also sent this look-alike for Friday, ex-player Chancellor Mbemba, and hopefully the new soon-to-be sporting director Michael Manolo. Yeah, pretty good likeness there. Could have been separated at birth, those two. I love this one, Steve. Del Piero and a young Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, that's really good. That one, really good.
Well our old mate Albert was back on fine form. Look alike. These look exactly the same, he says. Too much time on your hands, Albert. I picked this one out the newspaper online. Weak at the knees. There's Mike Ashley. Paul James and Mike Ashley.
Wow.
Pretty good cartoon likeness anyway. Steve sent us this one as well. Tyrese Gibson and Demba Ba.
That is spooky. That I can see that definitely. Yeah.
Even down to the immaculate teeth. It's
just good. Well, they look two physical specimens look so fit, don't they? You know? Yeah, me.
Albert's actually getting the hang of this now. Steve Wraith is now a rugby expert here with Gabby Logan at the England-Australia game. There we go. I'm not going to read the next bit, Albert. Chris Cooper thinks it looks more like Liam Kennedy, though. So there we go. But yeah, Albert, you're getting the hang of it. Garfield Thompson says, Toon look alike Steve Hasty and Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Bob Stoker's Dracula.
This one, I could only get the one because I couldn't find the tweet after that. Circus and Miles. And Circus. Yeah, that was pretty good, Alan. And I couldn't get the other one, mate. Sorry, I lost your tweet in amongst trying to get some of the other ones. Albert says, Steve just back from holiday after giving his... Yeah, okay, Albert. But yeah, Albert, you've got to find a lookalike. People who look like people. Rich gets the idea. It's like looking at a younger version of you all, isn't it? Mitch is Quint. Steve Wraith is Brody and Steve H is Hooper. Sorry, Mitch. I think Shaw was about 50 when he filmed this, but yeah, it's given us a good idea for a poster, that one, though. This was in early doors. Ian Hall, to look like the gentleman that is Steve Hasty, Dougal from the Magic Roundabout. Have to start balancing out somewhere. To be honest, this really got a bit of criticism on Twitter, didn't it? That one, Steve. People were defending you, I think, or were they defending Dougal? I'm not sure. This was a late entry from Noel. He goes, a late entry, Johnny Lawrence from Cobra Kai, Karate Kid, and myself, which was my costume for Halloween. I thought I'd sent it already. Thank you for that.
That's a classic. That is.
It's actually comparing myself. Toon Army 2 says, look-alike Steve Hasty on Brassic. Not something I've watched. It's always something I was thinking about watching. This one seems to be doing the rounds as well. We've had a couple of these now, but people just sending different photographs. Matt Ritchie and Eddie Howe, says Tom Dixon. And same again from Jacob, Eddie Howe, and Matt Ritchie. So yeah, that one seems to be a popular one amongst the supporters at this moment in time. Coming into the winning straight now, Wayne Bennett. This week, Boris will mainly be eating parsnips. Pretty good, that one, Wayne. I did like that one. That came in at number 4, though, Wayne. Number 3 from Ian Hull, to look alike, the Toon Tipster and Blakey from On the Buses. I'll get you next time, Butler. Very good. Very good. Yeah, I like that one. That was number 3. Number 2 was Ian Russell, Elton John, and Simon Jordan.
Good one, that.
That is good.
Very, very similar. And the winning one this week is Rob Swinburne. Steve. That's brilliant. Like, that is brilliant. I mean, it's just the way that the snow is falling on the car. The guys obviously created that. But yeah, very good. Very good. Keep them coming in at Steve Wraith, at Old Hitonian, at Geordie Dentist. Get them over to us, and we will share your tune lookalikes next week. Great stuff, as always. We don't like to disappoint Julie. I know she's up here, so I do have a... Julie, looking forward to seeing you tonight. And it is a short but sweet one. Good use of the emoji. Wraith is a bit of a bell, and then an arrow, and then an end. I'm not sure what that was, Toon Lad. I'm still trying to work it out. But anyway, you are. Okay, lads. Predictions. Mitch, how do you see it going tomorrow?
Right. I've got a new edition, courtesy of I get some interesting presents off patients because they know I like football. So what I've been given is a football score predictor dice. It's like a 12 for those who used to do Dungeons and Dragons. It's a 12-sided dice with various football scores on, and it's German. It came in German packaging. I've got no idea how popular they are there and what they're bloody used for. But I'm going to give it a roll because, frankly, it's got to be better than my predictions are anyway. So, not quite a penman, but it's come up 2-1.
2-1. Okay, there we go.
I'll take it.
He's gone for 2-1. Steve Hasty.
I'm going for a penman. 3-1.
You're going for a penman, yeah, and I'm going for 2-1. 2-0, sorry. 2-0 I went for yesterday. So that I'm sticking with that, 2-0. So 2-1 from Mitch, 3-1 for Steve. And a nice 2-0 and a clean sheet for Dubravka, hopefully for me. Shorter show this week. Don't forget, we are back tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock. Views from the Middle East with me and the guys. I'm back with Holly, who is fitting well now on Sunday. That will be at the later time of 6 o'clock. Have a great weekend. Look forward to seeing everybody at the party tonight. Hopefully we'll raise lots of money for the food bank. Mitch, Steve, take care, lads. Good night.
Enjoy yourselves tonight, everyone.
Cheers, Mitch.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself.